Hi everyone, how are you guys doing? Good, awesome. Well, it's good to see some faces. I've been working from home a lot, so it's nice to see people. Like Jillian said, we're going to be talking about some pretty basic nutrition today. So we're really going to look at some things that we want to do, some things that we want to be careful of, that we really kind of want to watch our intake of, and then we're going to look at how we can go about tracking ourselves easily. Nutrition labels can be kind of overwhelming when we first look at them. So we're going to break that down a little bit today and make it a little less confusing for you guys, okay? Can everyone hear me okay and see me okay before we get started? Thumbs up? Yeah, we're all good? Awesome. Okay. Well, I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. Did everybody receive the handout that I think will help you guys, the nutrition label breakdown? I think that Jillian was going to send that to you guys. Did everyone get that?
It's in the Google Classroom.
In the Google Classroom. Okay. Perfect. So here we go. Let's go ahead. Oh, you know what, Jillian? It says that screen sharing has been disabled. Are we able to enable that?
Yep, give me 2 seconds. I'm actually going to just make you the host because I think it's easier to do it that way than
okay, perfect. I am the host now. Awesome. All right. All right, can you guys see this okay? Everyone can see the slideshow? Okay, great. I'm seeing some nods. All right, so at any time, if you guys have any questions, feel free to stop me, ask me, have a conversation with me, whatever is going to make it easier for you guys to understand what we're going over. So let's go ahead and get started. Like Jillian said, my name is Lacey Young. So I work for UT Extension here in Carter County. Some of you may know of it already. And I teach nutrition. So I work with both adults and teens, youth, kindergarten, all the way up to any age of adulthood. So we're going to go ahead and get started by, let's see here. Okay, so what we're going to be covering today is we're going to look at our 5 food groups. We are going to look at MyPlate, which is a symbol that we're going to discuss. We're going to look at sodiums, fats, and sugars, which are 3 nutrients that we really want to be careful of. We don't want to take in too much of these, so we're going to learn about those. And then we're going to look at how to read a nutrition label and break it down so that when you guys are tracking yourselves over the next week, it will be a lot easier for you to do so by understanding what you're looking at with the nutrition label. Okay? All right, so let's go ahead and start with our MyPlate. So MyPlate and the 5 food groups. MyPlate is a symbol that is created by the USDA that stands for a balanced plate when we talk about our 5 food groups. So our 5 food groups are fruits, vegetables, grains, protein, and dairy, okay? Now, it is understood that we're pretty busy. I'm sure you guys are super, super busy. You got a lot going on. So sitting down to 3 meals may not always be something that we can do. So we're going to look at how we can incorporate these 5 food groups throughout our day. So let's say that we were going to sit down to a balanced plate that had all 5 food groups. What would we want it to look like when we're talking about how much of each food group we would want to get? So we would want half of our plate to be fruits and vegetables. We would want about 1/4 of our plate to be grains. We would want about 1/4 of our plate to be protein. And then we would want to have 1 serving of dairy at each meal. So if we were to have 3 meals throughout the day, that would add up to be 3 servings of dairy. Now, like I said, we're very busy. We got a lot going on. So often we may not get to sit down to a very balanced meal that has all of these at the same time. So what we can do is we could utilize one of our food groups as a snack in between meals. So let's say that for breakfast, maybe you were able to sit down and you were able to have some fruits and grains and protein and a glass of milk, but you didn't get to have your vegetables at breakfast. You could use your vegetables as a snack in between breakfast and lunch. So maybe something like some carrot sticks or something like that for a snack in between. So it can definitely be messed with a little bit and depending on how your day is, but this is just kind of an overall view of how we want to balance out our food groups in relation to each other. So we're going to break it down and we're going to look at each of these food groups and how much you guys need specifically for your age, okay? So we're going to start with our fruits. Now, fruits and vegetables are fantastic options. I'm sure as all of you have heard by now in life many times, we want to eat our fruits and vegetables, but we want to eat our fruits and vegetables because they are low in sodiums, fats, and sugars, which are going to be those 3 nutrients that we want to limit that we're going to look at in a little bit. And they're also full of vitamins, minerals, and nutrients. So they are full of vitamin C, which helps keep our immune system boosted, which helps reduce the likelihood that we're going to get sick and miss out on a lot of fun things because we're not feeling well. They're full of fiber, which helps to keep us full for longer, which we're going to talk about in a little bit. They're full of potassium, they're full of they're just full of all sorts of nutrients that we need for our bodies. Now, for your age group, how much do you guys need? So everyone here is pretty much between the ages of about 14 to 18, correct? And so this is going to be kind of an overall general view of how much you need. Now, it does vary. It varies by if you're a female or male, and it's also going to depend on how active you are. So if you're a pretty active person, if you're someone who you're moving all the time, you're in a lot of sports, you're very, very busy, you may need a little bit more than this because you're going to be working off those calories pretty quickly throughout your day. But generally, if you do moderate activity, you know, you move throughout your day, maybe you go for a run or you play sports here and there. For females, for fruits, you're going to want about 1.5 cups of fruits per day. For males, you're going to want about 2 cups per day. Now, our next question is, what counts as a cup? What counts as a cup of fruit? Because it does vary based on what type of fruit you're looking at. So let's start with our fresh, frozen, or canned, or like our whole fruits. So this is going to be something that you can actually measure 1 cup. So say that you opened a can of peaches and you were able to actually measure those. A cup would equal 1 cup. So 1 cup of canned peaches would equal 1 cup. Now, if we're talking about like a whole fruit, so if we're talking about you just grabbed an apple and bit into it, what does that count as? About a medium size, about the size of your fist is going to count as a cup of fruit. So about a medium-sized apple, you know, not like the really, really huge ones, but a medium-sized one that's about the size of your fist, or maybe a pear that's about the size of your fist, right around in there is going to count as a cup. Now, if we're talking about fruit juice, so fruit juice does count towards your fruit group. We do encourage that we try to eat whole fruits because they're going to contain all of that fiber that you guys need, but juice does count. Now, here's where you got to be careful. So when we go to the store, often what will happen is we'll see all of these different types of juices on the shelf. You know, it's pretty overwhelming when we go to the store. There's all of these different types to choose from. You want to make sure that you're choosing 100% juice. So we don't want it to say fruit cocktail. We don't want it to say added fruit flavoring or anything like that. We want it to be 100% juice. So if it's orange juice, if it's apple juice, we want it to be 100%. So 1 cup of juice is going to be about 8 ounces, okay? And then for our dried fruit, so dried fruit does count as well. So think about like raisins or maybe dried cherries, items like that. These are going to be a little less. So a 1/2 cup of dried fruit is going to equal 1 cup of serving of fruit. Now the reason for that is, think about that fruit. You take it from like a big piece of fruit and you suck all of that moisture out and it condenses it down. So now you've got everything kind of concentrated in this small handful of dried fruit, so you won't need to eat as much of the dried fruit because it's concentrated. Okay, does that make sense? And that'll be the same for our veggies too. Do we have any questions so far? No? Okay. Jillian, real quick, I see that there is someone in the waiting room. Carter, can I go ahead and admit that person?
What's the last name? It's probably one of our kiddos.
It just says Carter.
That's probably one of our pupils.
So just go ahead.
Somebody trying to say something?
But I don't. It just says Carter has entered the waiting room for the meeting, and I just wanted to make sure that was someone that was supposed to be with us. We've got a chat. Good
You're
question.
good to let him in.
Good to let him in. Okay. Hi, Grace. Okay, so Grace has a question. She said, can I get my full serving of fruit by putting it in my water? So we are going, so Grace, can I ask you real quick, are you eating the fruit that's in your water, or are you just putting it in and kind of infusing your water? Infusing, okay. This is a really great option, Grace, and anyone, especially if you find water to be kind of boring. I know a lot of people say that water just doesn't taste like anything. That's a really great question. So you can't get your full serving of fruit by just infusing it. Now, by eating it, if you were to eat it, if you were to put like a cup of, maybe a cup of strawberries in your water, you are going to pull out some of those nutrients, but you do want to physically eat that fruit because that's going to have your fiber in it. That's going to have all those other nutrients in it, and you're not going to be able to pull all of those out by infusing it. But infusing water is a really, really great way to give it some flavor, to make it taste better, and it makes it look really nice too. But that's a great question. Did I answer your question, Grace? Okay, wonderful. At any time, if you guys have questions, let me know. All right, let's go ahead and look at our vegetables group. Okay, so fruits and vegetables, to kind of continue on with those, they are fantastic because not only are they full of those vitamins and nutrients that I mentioned, but they also help to reduce the risk of some diseases. Now, some of these diseases include heart disease, diabetes, because they are low in, they don't have added sugars. They help with some cancers, help to reduce the risk of some cancers as well. High blood pressure because they're low in sodium. So overall, having a lot of fruits and vegetables in your diet is going to help contribute to an overall healthy lifestyle where you're less likely to get some of these diseases. Now, they're also full of fiber. So fiber is a fantastic nutrient that we need in our bodies. It does a couple of great things for us. So first and foremost, it helps to move our food through our bodies. So we need to be able to move our food through our bodies. Your food actually goes through over 25 feet of intestines when it is put into your body. So it has got a long way to travel. And fiber is going to help with that. So it's going to help food move through your digestive system. The other thing that it does is it helps to keep you full for longer. So I'm sure all of us have probably experienced, grabbing some fast food when maybe we're on a trip or doing something like that, or we're just having a real busy day and we grab some fast food, and then maybe an hour or two later, we're feeling pretty hungry again. That's because these foods are not high in fiber. They don't contain the fiber that helps to keep us full for longer. So fiber is great, especially if you're someone who's pretty active, you've got a lot going on, you're moving from school to sports to after school activities. Eating foods like fruits and vegetables that are full of fiber will help to keep you full for longer so that you're not, in the middle of soccer practice and feeling absolutely starving. So that's another great reason that fruits and vegetables are great. Now, for your vegetables, how much do you guys need for your age group? So ages 14 to 18, again, this is going to depend on female or male. Also going to depend on how active you are and how many of those calories you're burning off. But for the average for females, you'll need about 2.5 cups of vegetables, and males will need about 3 cups. So what equals a cup for our vegetables? So raw or cooked, this is going to be similar to, like I had talked about, if you open up a can of peaches, 1 cup equals 1 cup. So if you are measuring out some peppers, maybe some bell peppers that you want to have as a snack, 1 cup is going to equal 1 cup. Now for our raw leafy greens, so I want you to think about your salads when it comes to this. So think about when you put a salad in a bowl. It's pretty fluffy, it's pretty airy, it's got a lot of air in there. It's not compact, it's not shoved in there. So it's actually 2 cups of spinach or kale or lettuce that's going to equal 1 cup of vegetables, okay? Now, vegetables can be fresh, they can be frozen, they can be canned, they can be whole, they can be cut up, mashed, dried. All of these count as your vegetable group. If you are looking to use canned vegetables as one of your choices for getting vegetables into your healthy eating diet, we want to be sure that we look for canned vegetables that have low sodium or no salt added, okay? So salt is used as a preservative to help things not go bad. It's also used for flavor. We're going to talk about that in a little bit. But canned items can be pretty high in salt, so we want to look for no sodium or no salt added. Okay, and I do see we've got something in the chat here. So, all right, not a question. Okay. All right, so let's go ahead and look at our protein. So protein provides the building blocks to bones, muscles, cartilage, skin, and blood. So protein is extremely important, especially if you're somebody who, if you like to lift weights, you know that protein is pretty important for lifting those weights, building some muscle strength. So how much do you guys need of your protein? So for ages 14 to 18, females need about 5 ounces, males need 6.5 ounces, okay? So there's a lot of different foods that fall into our protein category. So most of us actually do get enough protein each day. That's because there are so many foods that fall into the protein category. So 1 ounce is equal to what? So 1 ounce can be 1 ounce of meat, fish, or poultry like chicken. And 1 ounce is going to be about the size of your fist, usually maybe a little bit smaller. So this can be chicken, this can be turkey, this can be salmon. What we want to look for is lean meats. So either hamburger that's lean or lean meats like chicken, okay? A 1/4 cup of cooked beans will equal 1 ounce as well. So cooked beans are really, really high in protein. So if you're somebody who you're not really big on meat or fish, maybe you don't like to eat a lot of meat, beans is a really great way to get your protein because it's packed full of it, and a 1/4 cup is equal to about 1 ounce. Okay? And then 1 egg, so maybe you hard boil some eggs for the week to get your protein. 1 egg is equal to 1 ounce. Peanut butter is also included, so if you're somebody who loves peanut butter and can have peanut butter, 1 tablespoon is equal to 1 ounce. And then nuts as well. So nuts are also part of our protein group, and they're very high in protein as well. So a 1/2 ounce of nuts is equal to 1 ounce. Okay, so think about maybe peanuts or almonds or other nuts that you like. Only 1/2 ounce is equal to 1 ounce of protein for our serving size. Okay, we've got another person in the waiting room here. We've got Kim Berry. Okay. All right, so let's look at our grains. So our grains are going to include rice, wheat, oats, barley, cereals. There's a lot that goes into our grain group. So here's the thing with our grain group, you guys. We have 2 different options when we are looking to include grains into our diets and what we put into our bodies. We have what's called whole grains, and then we have what's called refined grains. So if you've ever been at the store, You know that there are 40 different thousand types of bread to choose from, or it looks like there are. And you've got some that are a darker color, some that are white. So how do you know which ones to choose from? So whole grains are what we want to try to choose in our diet. And the reason for this is because they contain fiber, all of the vitamins that we need, the B vitamins, the healthy carbohydrates, and all of the minerals. So what happens when they take that wheat to make what's called refined or white bread? They actually take out the fiber, the iron, and what this does is it makes it a smoother texture. It makes that wheat a smoother texture. So has anybody ever experienced eating like the white bread and then you eat the wheat bread and it's got a different texture to it? It's kind of grainy. It's not as smooth. Okay. So that's how they make the refined grains to be something that is, hey Jillian, are you there? Do you guys know, is Jillian on here? Okay, so let's go ahead and continue on. So when you want to choose your whole grains because those are going to contain all of the vitamins and the nutrients that you need, okay? Your white bread or your refined bread is not going to contain as much fiber, and it's not actually going to contain the fiber because they don't add it back in, okay? So how much do you guys need? So for females, you need about 6 ounces. For males, you need about 8 ounces. Now we want to make half of them whole grains. So for females, you want 3 ounces to be whole. Males, you want at least 4 ounces to be whole grains, okay? When you are at the store, so if you're looking to get more whole grains into your diet, what you're going to want to do is look at your ingredients list. And your ingredients list will tell you if it's whole or not. So you're not going to want to just go by what's on the front. So you'll see companies will put on there made with whole grain or whole grain included. They'll try to trick you guys so that you'll buy their product. What you want to look at is the ingredients list. And the ingredients list, the first ingredient should say either whole wheat or whole grain, okay? So you want to look for that. So what equals 1 ounce? So 1 slice of bread equals 1 ounce. 1 cup of cereal. So this is going to be like cold cereal, like Cheerios or something like that. Or a half cup of cooked rice, pasta, cooked cereal. So cooked cereal is going to be like oats. Okay, so like oatmeal. All right. And then let's look at our dairy group. So our dairy group is going to be any milk products or products that are made from milk that retain their calcium. So the key here is that it has to retain its calcium to be included into the dairy group. So some foods don't actually have calcium in them that we often think might be part of the dairy group, but this does not include cream cheese, cream, or butter. So they're not going to have the calcium in it to be included in our dairy group. Now, dairy is especially important and calcium is especially important for you guys at your age because right now is when you guys are growing the most. So your bones are getting stronger right now. And so you guys are going to want to make sure you're getting enough calcium each day to make your bones as strong as you can. So for your age group, ages 14 to 18, females need 3 cups and males need 3 cups of dairy a day. Now, if you're someone who cannot have dairy or chooses not to, there are foods that do have dairy or calcium in them. So these are foods like kale, but you're going to want to look for maybe some juices or almond milk where calcium has been added, or it'll say calcium fortified. This means that calcium has been put into that food to help for people who choose not to have dairy or can't have dairy to get their calcium that they need, okay? So 1 cup of milk, yogurt, or soy milk counts as 1 cup of dairy. 1.5 ounces of natural cheeses, so like your cheddar cheeses, and then 2 ounces of processed cheese. So processed cheese is going to be more like American cheese or items like that. Okay. All right, so now we're going to look at our sodiums, fats, and sugars. So these are 3 nutrients that are naturally occurring in food. They do just happen, but they are also added to food to make the flavor better, to make the texture better, and to keep the food from going bad. Now, in little bits, these in the correct amounts, sodium, fats, and sugars can be okay in our bodies and they can help our bodies. But when we get too much of them, that's when they become harmful to us. They can cause us to gain unhealthy amounts of weight, get diabetes, heart disease, or high blood pressure. Okay? So we're going to start with our sodium. So our sodium is also known as salt. It does naturally occur in food, so it's just naturally there, and it is needed in our bodies. It does help to regulate fluids in our bodies and with our nerve functioning. The maximum amount is 2,300 milligrams, okay, or a teaspoon. So that counts as 1 teaspoon, okay? Now, there are some foods that are high in salt. Foods that are high in salt that we really want to be careful about are going to be our canned foods like soups and stews, packaged foods like frozen dinners, and then our fast foods. So burgers, fries, and pizzas are often high in salt, okay? Now our fats. So some fats can be healthier for us than others. So fats that are healthier for us are items like olive oil, canola oil, and fish oil. These are going to be better for us than solid fats. And solid fats are like butter, lard, or the fat that you guys see on meats, like you've seen it on chicken, or it'll be in steaks as well. So there are some fats that are going to be a better option for us. So like when we're cooking our foods, you'll want to cook in maybe olive oil instead of butter. So olive oil will be healthier for us to cook in. So when we're choosing fats, there's 3 different types that you're gonna see. And one of them is healthy for us and the other 2 are harmful to us. So unsaturated fats are healthier for us than saturated or trans fats, okay? Now, how do we remember that? So how do we remember which one's going to be the better option for us? So I want you guys to think of like a piece of pizza. If you've ever ordered a pizza and you got it home and you picked up a piece and it's just kind of dripping with oil, it's just kind of saturated. It's got so much oil and grease on it that it's just kind of dripping with that. Think of that as being saturated with fat, saturated with oil, saturated with grease. That's how we know that's not going to be healthy for us if we put it in our bodies, okay? Now, the maximum amount for you guys is about 65 grams or 16.25 teaspoons. So how do we figure that out? Okay, how do we know how many teaspoons a gram is? So what you're gonna do when you look at your nutrition label, whatever it says the grams is, you will divide it by 4, and that's gonna tell you how many teaspoons, okay? So 65 grams or 16 teaspoons is the maximum amount for the day, and you want no more of them, no more than 20 grams to be saturated fats, okay? So foods that are high in fats are going to be your fast foods. Again, so not only are they high in sodium, but they're also high in fats. So burgers, fries, pizza, items like that. And fried foods, so foods that are cooked in a lot of butter, a lot of oils, items like that, and then creamy foods. So creamy foods like pastas are often cooked with a lot of butter, so they're gonna be pretty high in fat as well. Okay. And then sugars. So sugars is probably the one that we're most common with, especially if you've got a sweet tooth like me. So sugar is naturally occurring. It does occur in foods like fruit, okay? Now, there is a difference between natural sugar and added sugar. So added sugar is going to be what companies put into our foods to make them taste really sweet, taste, pretty desserty, pretty delicious, but the added sugars is really what we want to look out for. So we've got natural and we've got added, okay? So your maximum amount of sugar for the day is 12 teaspoons. So that might sound like a lot. 12 teaspoons might sound like, well, that's a lot. I probably, I'm pretty good. I don't, eat that many teaspoons of sugar. But if you're somebody who likes soda, if you drink 1 soda a day, you are pretty much over your sugar for the day. So like lemon lime sodas has 19 teaspoons of sugar in just 1 soda. So it's pretty easy, especially if you're someone who likes to drink soda, to go over the maximum amount, okay? So how do we know how many grams equals a teaspoon? Because on our nutrition label, they label sugar in grams, okay? You're gonna divide it by 4, just like we did with our, so 16 grams divided by 4 is going to tell you how many teaspoons of sugar are in that Coke or in that cookie or in that item that you're eating. Okay, so foods that are high in added sugars are going to be, of course, sodas, cookies, cakes, most desserts, cereals, items like that, okay? All right, so what can you guys do, especially over this next week as you're tracking yourselves and seeing what changes you want to make? So you want to focus on your 5 food groups. You want to try to get whole foods instead of processed foods. So processed foods are foods that come in our boxes, they come in our bags, they come from a factory, they were made in a factory. Your whole foods are going to be foods that were grown by a farmer, your fruits, your veggies, your grains, items like that. Moderate your treats. So I'm not here to tell you guys you can never have anything sweet. Okay, that's not my job. I want you guys to have things now and then that you enjoy. Okay, I like to do it as well. It's just something that we don't want to do all day, every day. Okay, so it's something that we want to have every now and then. And then read your nutrition label and your ingredients list. So to find out what is in the foods that you're eating, you want to read your nutrition label. So everyone should have what you see on the screen right here. So this is for like a macaroni and cheese that you could buy at the store and warm up in the microwave. So when you look at your nutrition label, you're going to want to look at a couple specific things to help you out. The first thing you want to look at is number 1, is the start here. So this is going to tell you how large the serving size is of that food. So this is really important to pay attention to when you're tracking what you're eating, because if you just pour a bunch of cereal into your bowl or you just put a bunch of macaroni and cheese on your plate, you're not going to know how much that is. So you're not going to know what you're putting into your body, how much of each nutrient you're putting into your body, okay? So you really want to focus on how much is a serving size, because that's going to help you with the rest of your nutrition label, okay? The next thing you're going to want to look at is your calories, and it's going to tell you how many of those calories come from fat. So just like we were talking about fat earlier, you'll know how many of those calories came from fat. You'll also see the nutrients that you want to limit. So on this page, it's these ones right here in the orange, and then also your sugars, which I'll talk about in a second. So this has your fat. It's got your saturated fat. So those are the ones that we want to limit, no more than 20 grams a day. It has cholesterol on there, which we didn't really go over, but that's okay. And then our sodium. So our sodium was the one thing we really wanted to limit as well, okay? So these are what you want to be careful about. You want to make sure you're not getting too much of. And then the nutrition label also tells us the items that we want to get enough of. So these are in blue on this nutrition label. So our potassiums, our fiber, and our vitamins that are really important for our bodies as well. Now, we're going to look at daily values. So what you see in purple here, okay? When you look at a nutrition label, each day that you wake up, you have 100% of your upcoming day for eating food, okay? So 100% of your day of calcium, 100% of your day of sugar, 100% of your day of salt. When you look at your nutrition label, in one serving of whatever that food is that you are eating, it's going to tell you how much of that 100% is taken up by just one serving of this food. So for example, if we were to eat 1 cup, just 1 cup of macaroni and cheese, it's already 20% of your sodium for the day. And that's just in 1 cup. So if you were to have double that, it would be almost half of your salt for the day in just 2 servings or 2 cups of macaroni and cheese. Does that make sense to everybody? Yeah? Okay. So that's a really easy way to find out if something is high or low. So what it says right here, a quick guide to percent of daily value. So if the percent is 5% or less, it's going to be low in that nutrient. So let's say that you were trying to get a good amount of calcium. You wanted to get 100% of your calcium for the day. If it's 5% or less, you know that that food is pretty low in calcium. So it's not going to be a good source of calcium for you. If it's 20% or more, then the food is a high source of that nutrient. So can you guys tell me, you guys can either write it in the chat or you can unmute yourself. Is the fat in the macaroni and cheese, is that going to be on the higher end of the daily value or the lower end? So find your total fat for the macaroni and cheese, look at your percent daily value in the purple, and is it high or is it lower in fat? Now remember, closer to 20 is going to be pretty high, closer to 5% is going to be low. What do you guys think? Is it high in fat or low in fat? Okay, so Grace says it's fairly high. You're right, Grace. So it's starting to get pretty close to the 20%. Yes, very good. Yep, it is higher. Very good. What about, can you guys tell me, how about your calcium? So your calcium in the macaroni and cheese, is it high in calcium or low in calcium? Very good, it is high. So this would be a really good source of calcium, your macaroni and cheese would, but it's really high in your sodium, it's really high in your fat. So this is where you have to decide, would this actually be harmful or helpful to my body? It's probably going to be on the more harmful side because it's high in salt and it's high in fat. Now you could have 1 serving and then watch what you have for the rest of your day, but we just want to keep in mind that some things may be high in some nutrients that we do need, like calcium, but they also may be very high in sodiums and salts, or sodium, sugars, and fats, okay? And then what you see down here at the bottom, so this little tiny print down here, this is going to tell you your maximum amount of these different items and nutrients for the day. So dietary fiber, you want to get 25 grams. Total carbohydrates, no more than 300 grams. So that's a really good thing to look at when you guys are tracking yourselves and compare it to your maximum amount for the day and how much this food has of each of those nutrients, okay? All right. All right, so you guys have any questions on any of that stuff? Anything that you want clarified? Anything that you're confused about? Any comments? What do you guys think?
Well, I don't know if they want to ask the question, but one person in the chat mentioned that whole grains upsets their stomach when they consume it. And we're wondering, obviously, can you tell us about why whole grains are actually very good for your body? And maybe if there are some possible reasons that it might upset a stomach, or it might be unrelated, or anything along those lines, or something to address that concern.
So why whole grains? Okay, so why whole grains might, why they are good, and then why they might upset some people's stomachs as well.
Or yeah, or some potential reasons why their stomach might be getting upset.
Potential reasons. Okay, yeah. So I can't go too much into like why. I know some people may have some sensitivities to it. So if that's something that they are struggling with, that's definitely something I'd want them to talk with their doctor about specifically, because I know that can have some underlying reasons, or There may be some specific stuff to each person for that. So I can't go too much specifically into that, but if you are somebody who can handle whole grains, the reason that whole grains is suggested over refined grains or white grains is because when they create refined grains or white grains, what they do is they take out portions of the grain itself. So whole grains contain B vitamins, they contain iron, they contain carbohydrates, which help to give us energy, and they also contain fiber. So they've got a lot of really great nutrients when the grain is whole. But some companies, they take out portions of that, such as the iron and the B vitamins and the fiber, in order to make a smoother texture and to also increase its shelf life. So how long it takes before the bread or the grain item goes bad. And then what they'll do is they will add the iron back in, but they don't actually add the fiber back in to refined grains. And fiber is really extremely important for our bodies to keep that food moving through our systems and to help keep us full for longer. So if whole grain, if you can do grain, if you're somebody who can do grain, we definitely suggest that we try to make half of our grains whole grains each day so that you're getting the fiber that your body needs. Because if we're just eating the refined or white grains, then we're not getting that fiber intake, okay? And then if you're someone who struggles with that, it's like I said, I can't go too much into that, but that's definitely something, if it's something that hurts your stomach, I think your doctor can definitely help you to determine how to get that fiber or what some other alternative options are for you. Does that help? Does that answer that question? And does that help too with why whole grains are the choice that we want to make at least half of our grains than refined or white grains each day?
I think so.
Okay.
I was waiting. I was hoping for the student maybe to, if they want to add anything or say yes or no or whatever as well.
Yeah.
But yeah, that answers my
Yeah,
question.
that helps. Okay. Beans. Okay. So a lot of beans help as well. Now, the beans, they're great because they're high in protein as well. So they're a great protein option, especially, like I said, if you're someone who maybe you just meat's not really something that you're super into, or you choose not to eat meat, or beans are a great option for protein instead. So if meat's just not something you're super into or can't have, choose not to have, beans are great. And for the fiber as well. Good. Awesome.